hustle. Soy Enrique Byrnes, y presidente de su mejor cerveza, not with us today. Miguelito Santiaguito. Will the Thrill Clark, not with us today, but as you can see on the other side of the screen, former AL MVP Josh Donaldson with us today. So, Josh, this is how we start every one of the shows. Just take your fingers, put them in the air. Ready? Yes, 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 yes. Woo! When we are juiceful, we are useful, and when we are juiceless, Josh, we're fucking useless. Welcome to the Daily Hustle, dude.
Oh, thanks for having me, dude.
Bro, I was so excited. Nick Punto reached out to me the other day, and he goes, Josh Donaldson wants your number. I said, bro, fire it to him. And I had so many things going through my mind that it could possibly be about. And the number one thing I actually thought,
None of them
I
were
go,
sexual, were they?
no, 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 no. I said, he's got to be a pickleball player.
Ooh.
So that was my big guess. But anyway, dude, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I told you, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I've dabbled a little bit in the pickleball, but I haven't found people that are probably at the level that you play at back home. But, I've always been nervous about blowing an Achilles out, and I've just heard the sport is tough on Achilles. So,
It's tough on the body. There's some quick movements. I think people trying to do shit that they haven't done in a
yeah.
really long time. Hey, let's rewind with your story a little bit because obviously, born in Florida, grew up there,
Hmm.
moved to Alabama, became the Alabama Gatorade Player of the Year,
Yeah.
ended up in Auburn, first round draft pick. Was it the Cubs?
Yes, the Cubs.
And then traded
Yeah,
to.
they got rid of me as fast as they could to go to Oakland. Billy Bean snagged me up, and on the bottom line, whenever I got traded for me, they called me John Donaldson instead of Josh. It was great. I loved it.
Well, they also had what was it, Josh Donald too? Was it
Yeah,
a big
something
name?
like that. Yeah,
A
something. I
Fresno
mean,
guy.
there was a couple. I know John Donald. He actually played for the A's way back in the day. So yeah, I mean, there's been a couple guys like that.
Okay, so you go to Oakland,
Yeah.
and this is kind of your breakout, right? Your first opportunity in the big leagues. Uh, Tell us about your experience there.
Man, I definitely didn't have the easy route. I can tell you that. I was progressing. I went through every level, not like these guys today, to where they pretty much spend a month in an area and if they play well, they get promoted. Our whole thing, I remember coming up with the minor leagues, they're like, you're not ready until you have 1,500 at bats at least in the minor leagues. So that was kind of the organization's way of thinking. I got called up in 2010. Kurt Suzuki uh, had an oblique injury. I was up for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. My first start, I hit a homer, and then I don't think I had like my next hit for like 20 at bats, and that was probably between like 15 games. And so I got demoted, and then got recalled in September. The 2011, I was up in the big leagues for 2 days because Kurt went on paternity leave. And then 2012, at the end of 2011, I thought I was going to get taken off the roster, the 40 man. And so I went to the Dominican Republic and played third base because I wanted to show National League teams that I could play multiple positions and that I had a little bit more value there. And so I went to 2012. Bob Melvin was the new manager, which I love. Bob, he was awesome. Um, and I asked him, I was like, hey, like, I played third in Dominican. Do you mind if I can spring training, if I could play some third base? He's like, yeah, I heard the reports. Everything came back good. We'll think about it. And then the first day of full team camp, Scott Sizemore went down with a knee injury, and I had an opportunity to move over to third base. I got demoted 18 games into the regular season. Was kind of told that I was going to catch DH and play third a little bit, kind of because they had some Derek Norris, who was a prospect that they just traded for at the catching position. And so at that point, you kind of see the writing on the wall. It's like I'm borderline 4A guy, and I got recalled 20 days later. Brandon Inge went down with a hammy. Was up for about a month and a half, and I was playing third and catching. I think I caught like 2 or 3 games, and then got demoted when they brought Derek Norris up, and then in August, Brandon Inge he separated his shoulder um, on a check swing or something like that, and then I got recalled for the final month and a half of the season, and I hit 290 with 9 homers, and that was it. Next year, I was a starting third baseman, and the rest was history.
I love it because the path wasn't this smooth one, like you
No,
said. It was one actually that I was sort of used to when I came up. I
right.
got drafted in 98, made my big league debut in 2000, but between
Hmm.
2000 and 2002, I went up and down 9 different times.
Yeah.
Um, it's crazy. And Billy Bean, I got to imagine as you were going through the roller coaster, what sort of interactions did you have with him?
Um, I didn't really have a ton of interactions at that point with Billy. It was more whenever I was more in 2012. It was more with me and Bob, and I do remember me and Bob had a couple of discussions, and I don't think it probably was um, what he was expecting me to be. I think maybe he was thinking I was like, oh, hey, thanks for the opportunity, blah, 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 where I was more like, hey, because he had told me at the beginning of 2012 I was a starting third baseman. I just wasn't going to start against King Felix opening day because we started in Japan that year. And I was like, that's fine. He's like, Sogi's got some numbers against King Felix. Like, it's yours from here on out. And then after I got demoted after 18 games, I played 9 and Sogi played 9 at third base. And I was like, hey, man, I'm like, you told me I was going to be the starter, and we were splitting time. Like, I didn't feel like you were upfront with me at that time. And so we had this long talk, and, you know, it was a pretty intense moment at that, but I think Bob gained some respect for me from that moment because at the end of it, I was like, look, because he asked me, did he think I could have played better if I played every day? And I was like, well, Bob, I've only ever played every day.
Yeah.
And I know me, like, I'm going to figure it out at some point. At least I believe in myself that I will. And the last time I got recalled, we were in Kansas City, and he looked at me, he pulled me in the office. He goes, this is your position. You play good defense. We don't care about the hitting right now. Go play good D. We're winning games. Keep the line moving. And I was like, you got it. And that was my point. Like, that's why I felt like I always took defense extremely important. And because that was my way on the field, because I could defend a little bit and I felt like I could give a competitive at bat. And, you know, as I said, I respect Bob to this day. I have the utmost respect for Bob because he literally let me say like what I felt at that time, didn't take it personal, and then took me. Bob's the kind of guy if like you tell him something, he's going to put you to the test and see if you can back it up. And there was quite a few times where that happened between him and I was able to come through for him in those areas.
So this podcast today is not about me. I've told this story 9,000 times, but when I got traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks 2006,
Yeah, he was your
Bob,
manager, wasn't he?
Bob took me aside and he
Yeah.
was my manager. And he said, basically, he goes, "You're my everyday center fielder." Really similar situation to what you
Yeah.
were talking about. But Jeff Devanin was still there, and you had Luis Gonzalez in left, and you had Sean
Mm-hmm.
Green in right, and those guys weren't coming off the field.
Right.
And Devanin had hit 500 in spring training. And so he just told me, he goes, "Look, stick with me because we have to ride Devanin right now, but I'll get you at least one game every series. And as soon as he cools down and you heat up, you're my guy." And by the end of April, I think I was hitting 200 with one homer, and Devannon had started off hot, and then he was starting to cool down. And then I remember there was a game against the Dodgers at home. I think it was Omar Dahl who was on the mound, and I fucking clipped his ass. And then from there on out, I didn't look back. Finished with 26 homers, 25 bags, and really, propelled me.
No doubt.
But it was Bob giving me that opportunity, keeping me
Hmm.
fresh, relaying the fact that he believed in me. So yeah, just a really stand-up baseball guy. All right, in 2013, Josh, I mean, we're talking. You went from, hey, this could be a pretty good major leaguer, to holy shit, man, this guy is an MVP caliber player. What was the difference when you broke out that year?
Yeah, the difference was is I had a plan on who I was and who I believed I was, and I felt like I was starting to tap into some of those areas of what was going to turn me into who I eventually became in my career. Where, as a younger guy, especially as me coming up catching, I didn't really have the time to focus on myself as a hitter and stuff all the time because, I'm dealing with pitchers. I'm trying to call a game, and you're catching bullpens, you're doing all that stuff. So once I became essentially a position player, third base, it really allowed me to. And in the off season, I started working with one of my buddies, and we really started tapping into a few things of mechanically of where I needed to go, and then once I felt some mechanical things that I started to be able to slow the game down to where the ball didn't seem like it was jumping on me anymore. Now I could make it. It felt like I had all the time in the world, and I remember there was a couple in that 2012 season, right? I told you I got sit down twice, and then the third time I hit 290. I don't think I went more than one game without getting a knock. I hit 9 homers, which from that point on I didn't have any success in the big leagues. And um, the last time I got demoted, I was actually happy. And I know that sounds weird to
No.
not be in the big leagues, but I was happy because I was like, all right, I'm going to get to go down there. I feel like I have an idea of what's going on and what I need to work on even more now. To where I'm like, all right, now I need to go and refine my approach because my approach, like how I was taught, was if it was over the plate, like you needed to swing, right? And I found at the big league level that just wasn't going to work. Like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't Vlad Guerrero senior to where like I could swing at balls off my ankles and hit them out of the ballpark or anything like that. So I had to refine my approach. Like, okay, I need to cut the plate in half. If I'm looking for a breaking ball, like I need to figure out like where does that breaking ball need to start in order for me to take a swing at it? Because that was a thing for me. Like early on in my career in the major league level, I felt like my at bats were getting manipulated a lot to where pitchers were making pitches look like they were going to be in an area, and then now they're barely breaking off, and I'm hitting it just off the sweet spot, and now they're outs, and my contact isn't as hard as I wanted it to be, or I'm not. Um, I'm putting myself in bad counts because you go from 1-1 and maybe you chase a pitch that's a little bit off the plate. Now that goes to 1-2 versus taking that pitch going to 2-1. And I took that month and a half in AAA, and I was like, I'm really gonna focus on my approach because this is my honest belief. You can have perfect mechanics and not be a good hitter. You can have terrible mechanics and have a great approach and be a good hitter. But if you put somebody that has great mechanics and a great approach together, now you're dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. And that was what I was striving for because I knew that was going to take me to that level of where I wanted to go to. And eventually, it did. It worked out.
So when I was working at MLB Network,
Hmm.
you came in, and I was there that day, but you did a segment with
Hmm.
Mark DeRosa, that I think if there's one sort of coming out moment for, let's call it the launch angle slash
Right.
fly ball revolution, it happened in Studio 42 that day with you and Dero. Take us back to that time and talk about your mentality, your approach, and how that changed you.
Well, so I can't take full credit of like saying like me thinking of hitting the ball was my idea in the air was my idea, but I remember Farhan Zaidi, so he is with the A's, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually crazy that we're having this talk because it's kind of I talked to Braden Moss last night, and we were texting, and Braden Moss literally got called up to the big leagues in the A's because he had a high fly ball rate and he hit the ball a lot in the air. And I'm sitting there as a minor leaguer. I'm like, okay, like if people are going to get rewarded for this, then there's something to that. And then Brandon Moss got called up in against the Rockies that year, and I think he had 8 extra base hits in his first 3 games before he had his first single. And I was like, wow. I'm like, this is what a start. You know, like you
Yeah.
get called up, like what an impression to make on your team. And then even before that, and I just ran into this guy yesterday on the range. The very first time I ever got fitted on a golf, like for my golf clubs. We were out in Arizona over here at Greyhawk, and he has me hitting my driver, and he's like, "Look, you need to hit in order for you to hit this ball as far as you can, like and as straight as you can. Like you need to hit it at this launch angle. You need to hit it with this spin, and in order to do that, you have to have this type of swing, which is a positive impact at the club. So positive meaning up." With a driver, like you actually want to swing up. And as a baseball player, I always had a tendency to swing down because that was how I was always taught. And as a right-handed hitter, my swing was always more down to flat, right? And anytime anybody ever told me to hit on top of the baseball, I was an out because I would just like my right hand was way too strong, and I would just my right hand would get rolling over, and so that's why for me like I couldn't think hands when I hit. I know a lot of people do. I knew where my hands were, but I wasn't thinking like I need to use this like my right hand more. The only thing I would do, I would get conscious of like my angles of my right wrist. Like I would want my right wrist to stay at this point during my load, and I would want to make sure that my left wrist was flat. I never wanted it to be like rolling, right? I was conscious of that, but I wasn't trying to use that, if that makes sense. Like how people were trying to tell me, or at least how I interpreted them trying to tell me to use my hands. Um, so once he told me all these numbers, I was like, what the hell are you telling me right now? He's like, you mean to tell me that scientifically you have numbers that are going to tell me that I'm going to hit the ball the furthest if I do this? He's like, yeah. I go, well, that's what I'm trying to do with my baseball swing. And so I started taking this data that I got from a range in my brain and like, how can I figure out how to match this golf swing per se to my baseball swing and be able to create lift, but without trying to create lift, if that makes sense.
Correct.
And so then you go into the Ted Williams book, and he talks about matching planes of pitches. And so I go, all right, like what I was in the cage, and my buddy, he was like, really, I still have the video of it. Um, he's like, you got to be able to like envision the ball coming in and trying to match the plane of that ball. Because I was always taught like keep the front elbow down, and I wanted to be more here. And anything that got above my belt, I was just an out. In
Mm-hmm.
my first year of 2013, I hit over 300 with 24, but I knew that I had exposed a weakness anything above the belt line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and worked on that because I could see teams like Tampa, New York, and there was a couple of the teams that were ahead of everyone else that were really trying to use the up part of the strike zone. And I go, if I can get ahead of that, I'm going to have success.
Yeah.
And that ended up turning into a strength of mine versus a weakness. And that pitch became a easier pitch for me to do damage on.
Talk to me about the difference between trying to lift the ball and getting on plane with the baseball. I think there's a real fine line there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I will also tell you, and I just kind of want to get your thoughts on this. I think there's a huge difference between feel and real.
I agree.
And so there were often times where I would be trying to hit the top half of the baseball, not to pound it in the ground, but because when I tried to hit the top half of the baseball and when I tried to hit the ball to right center field,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'd get on plane, I'd catch
Mm-hmm.
this motherfucker out front and launch it out to left field like I did 99% of my homers.
Right, right. Yeah, and for me, I don't like the idea, and I've never been like the proponent of launching, right? I like to think about hitting the ball in the air, but not to where I'm trying to launch a ball into the fifth deck, if that's what or I'm trying to launch a ball. I want to try to hit balls. I wanted my miss to be a line drive or a fly ball. I wanted to stay off the ground, but I wanted to stay kind of like in this. So if this is a line drive here, I wanted to live in this area here.
Okay.
And then now if I missed, I was strong enough to where I missed on this end, I could still have a chance at it going out. Um, but the goal is to hit a line drive first off. It's not to hit a ball. And where I see people launching and where they're getting it wrong is when the shoulders are going too far this way and it's getting behind you too much, where now you have dump of the barrel. Um, that's where you get in trouble, right? So my whole thought was like planing. What's the hardest pitch to hit in the Major League Baseball, as far as like time? Like, what's the least amount of time you have? Is the up and in fastball?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so up and in, let's just say a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, which nobody throws 92 anymore. But 92, if it's up and in, is actually 95 from a timing perspective. And a 92 that's down and away is actually 88.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have a huge amount of variation of velo from these locations. Okay, so my whole thought was let's get to the top of the plane first. Let's know where our top of the plane. And one guy who I respected a lot and I watched him hit a lot was Adrian Beltre. And one thing I used to always see him do is he would take the bill of his helmet and like almost, especially guys that threw like rising fastballs, he would get the bill down to where like he's setting the top of his zone like this the entire time. So anything that starts above that, he doesn't even see it. That's how I perceived it. You'd have to ask him. That's what it looked like to me.
That's
And
fucking
so
brilliant.
it is brilliant. And so for me, I'm like, all right, I want to know where my top of the zone is. So I was always aiming to go to the top. And then now, because with gravity, it's easier to go from top to bottom than it is from bottom to top because you're having to fight gravity and you're having to fight velo at the top there. So I always work to the top of the zone and adjust it down. That was my thought. So by front side mechanics, what we kind of talked about there a little bit, I learned that after that 2013 season, to where I was like, all right, I want to fight to get this up, and then now I can. So I thought Dero did a great job on it. I saw an Instagram clip of it. He was showing Schwarber or Schwarbaum the other day when he clipped somebody, and they had the ump view, and you could see how the barrel would get underneath the lead arm. Not to where it's going like this, like that's a dump. It's going here, that's flat. So anytime my shoulders start tilting too much this way on an up zone pitch, like you're toast.
Toast.
Now, if the ball is down, the shoulders got to tilt, Like that's part of it. So you have to be adjustable with this, right? While maintaining your spine orientation at that time to your posture. You got to maintain the posture, hold it here, and be able to go from. So for me, what I would talk about is you have to separate your arms from your body. So if my arms are going with my body the whole time, then this is always going to go underneath. So I wanted to feel like I could go here, separate my arms, and then once the ball started going, let's say I was like on fastball and he throws a slider, right? It starts at the top. All right, I'm at the top now. As the pitch starts going down, like I can adjust going down with the back shoulder, and that's how I try to get on plane, and that's what I worked on.
It obviously was incredibly successful for you. 2015 American League Most Valuable Player. What was that season like?
It was special. I mean, it was not just for myself, but our team. And going to Toronto was my first year there, and we had some huge acquisitions at the trade deadline with David Price, Troy Tulowitzki, LaTroy Hawkins, Mark Lowe, Ben Revere. I remember walking in after the All Star break, and I was like, we have a legit chance. And even before the season, when I was stepping in the lineup with Bautista, Edmund, and Carcion, I was like, we're gonna be trouble for some teams this year with this lineup. And then we added to it and added some pitching, and how the city was on fire just because I think it had been 22 or 23 years since since the Blue Jays had went to the postseason. And it was an incredible feeling, and it felt like I was hitting a homer every day, which I wasn't, but it felt that way. And that was the only year that I had over 100 RBIs, and I felt like I was hitting with guys on base every at bat. I ended up with 123 that year, and that was fun because there were so many moments that because my teammates put me in great positions to have success that I was able to come through and deliver some pretty cool moments that year.
So I had an opportunity to play with Joey Bats in the
Yeah,
Dominican Republic,
yeah,
and to watch the evolution of what he was like, super
yes,
good utility player, really kind of spread out, no stride,
yeah.
early load, shoot the ball the other way, to
Hitting
him
50, hitting
implement,
50.
implementing the leg kick and hitting
Yeah,
fucking 50.
yeah,
It was nuts. So my last year playing in the Dominican was 2009, 2010. And I went back there 5 different times. I won the MVP award. I was the first foreigner in like 20 years to win it. Fell in
that's
love with the
sick.
country. There was
I
this
love it.
reciprocal love.
Yeah,
And I would go back there every offseason. And sure enough, here comes Joey Bats, where he had hit, I think it was like 9 home runs in September one year. And before that, he hadn't done much.
yeah.
And he was telling me, he's like, Burnsy, I just implemented this leg kick. I got on my backside. I let it eat, and I just kind of found it. And it was like, fuck yeah, man. And he was going through this arbitration process.
Mm,
And he goes back the next year, and then he was Jose before that. And then the legend of Joey Bats
right.
became real. When you watched him in his evolution as a hitter, how much of what you're talking about did you see in what he was doing?
Well, so when I first started redoing my swing, I was in or not the first, but like as I was going through it, when I got to the big leagues in 2012, that was the first time I could really watch video, like of whoever I wanted. And I started looking at Bautista because he had the leg kick, and when I was younger, I always kind of had a leg kick. And I looked at Miguel Cabrera, and I looked at Alan Craig at that time because he hit so well with runners in scoring position. I liked what he was doing. but they are all three different guys, like three different stances, three different moves, and I was trying to find something in common. And I felt like Jose and I were similar bodies, similar probably athletes, and I really wanted to go to the leg kick. So I studied a lot of Bautista before him and I were even teammates. So yeah, if he probably never would have went to the leg kick, I don't want to say I might not have went there, but he definitely helped me solidify. That's what I wanted to do for sure.
Yeah, dude, that was such a fun team to watch. And obviously, this season, the Toronto Blue Jays, they win
Mm-hmm.
the American League East. They once again are relevant. Have you
Yeah.
enjoyed watching this go down and watching them take down the Yankees the other night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I played for both teams, but I'm probably more partial to Toronto. But since my career's done, it is special, and I know how much that city really loves the Blue Jays, and not just the city, but the country in and of itself. Um, it's a great time to be there when the Jays are hot and they're winning, and I think they got a great chance. And um, they just beat a really good Yankees team and did it pretty solidly too. And my whole thing is just like for me, if I was talking to those guys today, right, and if I was in the locker room, I bet that's over with now, guys. Like that series is over. I know, like you had it's going to be a huge adrenaline dump. You just beat the Yankees and finished them off in Yankee Stadium. That's it's over. Like
Hmm.
that's time's over. Now it's time to move to the next step and get ready for that. And you still have your goal in front of you right now, which is to win the World Series. But you got to get through this next step.
Well, what's cool is that you actually will have a chance to talk to these boys
Yeah.
in the locker room if you want. You're going to be throwing out the first pitch of the American League Championship Series.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. They just gave me the call today, and we committed, got the flight and everything out there. So I'm looking forward to going out there and throwing out the first pitch in front of the fans back home.
What's it like playing in Toronto? I've obviously played there as a visiting player, but what was it like as a home player?
It was as a kid when I was thinking about what is it like playing in the major leagues, like how people perceive you, how people when you're walking around town and you know Toronto, they love athletes. That city of Toronto, they love athletes and they love when their teams are doing well. And still to this day, I get people come up to me saying thank you, like for the few seasons that I had there, just because of they created so many memories with their friends, with their families, whether they were working downtown and everybody was just having an amazing time there, and you get 50,000 people in one spot. It gets pretty ruckus. I remember when Joey Bats hit the walk off against the Rangers. I was on first base and I was going around the bases and I hit third base and I was looking into the fans that are just past the third base right there, and I could not register their faces. Everybody's face was like vibrating. There was so much energy going through that building that everybody's face to me, it looked like everybody's face was vibrating at that time. It was nuts.
That's so cool, man. All right. So, one of the things that we talked about yesterday were conversations that Will Clark and I have. Now, I gotta throw a disclaimer here, man. This is my favorite player when I was growing up. He
Will
was,
the Thrill, baby.
oh fuck,
He's from
dude.
Mississippi.
I'd be in the backyard doing the wiffle ball stance
Yeah,
and everything. Um, Clearly one of the greatest players of his generation, one of the
yeah,
best pure hitters, Sports Illustrated cover, the natural clutch player. 1989, one of the greatest postseason performances ever, leading the Giants to the World Series, led the Rangers to the playoffs, which they hadn't been before when he was there. Historic career 300 hitter. Now a special assistant with the San Francisco Giants and an iconic podcaster. His clips go viral all the fucking time. I know you've seen a lot of the clips.
Yeah.
I think probably the main point when we were discussing this yesterday was, Bernsey, hey, look, I want to explain the difference between what hitting was like back then and how it is now. And I do think that if there's anybody that I'd want to bring on here,
Yeah.
it's you, because I think you understand what the old was and you understand exactly what's happening in today's game. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think with Will, I mean, obviously was a great player. Like this isn't to, I'm not taking anything away from Will, nor could I. I mean, he had his time, and he had his fun in the sun, and obviously he did a great job. But I just think it's funny when I watch some of the clips, and when I hear him talk about the strike zone, and I hear him talk about four seam fastballs today. Well, the difference of it is, and as I talked to you the other day, it's like I couldn't even watch video from 5 years back of my last couple of years in this show just because the shapes of pitches and everything were different. And I think when you look at these guys now, it's like you'll have guys that are throwing. I think, and one of the biggest things that started separating guys and making it more difficult for myself is you have guys that are throwing 96 to 100, and it's three different shapes of fastballs. Like you get like a four seamer, you get a cutter, and then some guys have a sinker. And they might not be like a Brandon Webb sinker where it's like this, but when you're talking 97 to 100 and everything's, you have one going here, you have one going here, then you have one going here, and it might not be this huge movement. To me, the guys that had the bigger movement were a little bit easier to hit because you knew where eventually it was going to go to. It's the guys where it's late and it's small to where now it's like, now it's on my barrel, now it's on my thumbs, now it's on the end of the bat, to where like, and it's happening at very high velocities. And I think it's easy for all of us to sit here and say, like, if somebody throws a straight fastball at 100, we could all get to it. Yeah, we could, if that's all they were throwing. But when you're watching the games and they got 89-mile-an-hour changeups, they got 93-mile-an-hour sliders, they got 86-mile-an-hour splits or curveballs, and all of them have multiple pitches for the most part. I don't want to say all, that's extreme, but most of them have 3 to 4, 5 pitches that they can go to. And when I first came up, guys that threw 3 to 5 pitches, they were kind of like just looking to get a couple more outs, and then it was over, right? Now these guys are in their prime throwing 100, and all of them are making the ball move like wiffle balls. And it's very. I've never been one to give pitchers credit. I hate pitchers. Like, I mean, that was my job to not like pitchers. That was that's who I was making my money off. But to give credit to, like, I mean, they've really broken the system of pitching right now to where you don't get to face guys more than twice unless the guy's absolutely pitching a gem of a game. Sometimes you're going into the game knowing that you're going to face 4 or 5 different pitchers every at bat, or a pitcher every at bat, so it ends up being 4 or 5 pitchers. And I think, like, even more importantly, it's like, go look at like Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, like the amount of pitchers that these guys hit home runs off. It's very limited. It's like 200 guys for 700 homers. You look at Mike Trout, he's hit 400 homers. You look at Pujols, how many he had over 700 homers, and the amount of pitchers that he hit home runs off. And Pujols was just really getting in that the last 5 years of where teams were sending guys up and down, moving it. It makes it more difficult, is all I'm trying to say. Is when you're not facing a guy more than 2 times in a game, and the third time especially, kind of when the stuff's starting to get a little bit depleted, and you've seen the curveball, you've seen the changeup, you've seen the sinker, or you've seen their cut, whatever. You've seen their best pitches at that time, and where you have a good idea of what you want to do in that at bat. Shoot, I remember the last couple years, 50% of my at bats, I felt like I didn't even know who the guys were. I was like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him. Oh, he's throwing 100. Okay, the next week, who's another guy throwing 100? It's just the rotating field of pitchers. So where the cool thing early on when I was in the big leagues, it was like, oh, like I faced C.J. Wilson 20 times already. Now I get to face him another 15 times this year at least. You know what I'm saying? So I have an idea what he's going to do. I have Felix Hernandez. He's really good. Like I have an idea of what he's going to do. I know what it looks like. Whoever was in your division, you kind of now it's kind of like they hide these guys. Like I mean, you're seeing the Yankees. They threw the young kid the other day that threw 8 innings. He was in the minor leagues most of the year. Like,
Yeah,
it's
bro.
crazy.
So that game the other day, I came on here, Josh, and I was talking about the fact that they got Schittler come in and he's
Yeah,
going to pitch for the Yankees, and he had just shut down Boston, and Toronto was going to have a quote unquote bullpen game. Well, I hadn't seen anything out of Toronto's bullpen that made me think that they would be able to shut down the Yankees.
right.
Yet Toronto deployed a boatload of relievers, none that got more than 5 outs, and
Yep.
they fucking stuck it to that Yankees offense, which arguably is the best offense in all of baseball. Yet the Yankees put Schittler out there, then, well, he got Schittlered. And that was it.
Well,
I mean, I couldn't believe it. And the Yankees were favored in that game. I thought they should have been favored, but it didn't happen. The bullpen prevailed. I just, look, dude, I'm questioning how good this is for the game of baseball, though.
I don't think it is. I don't think the bullpen games are good for baseball. I think it's. I think, and you and I had touched a base on this a little bit. I think as much as I don't like pitchers, I think when you have these guys, I saw Snell go deep in the game. I saw um, the Schittler guy go 8 innings. Like to me as a fan, I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, it's fun watching this guy go on a roll and then mow guys down and have a good game. And to be fair, I don't know if this is how you say his name, but Schittler or whatever his name is for the Yankees. Like I mean, he had a double play ball that possibly could have been turned, and the game kind of changed on that play. It was a tough play, but probably one that he said that probably should be made. Um, but at the end of the day, I think from a fan's experience, you want to see those battles. Like I remember when we were playing early on in my career against Verlander when I was with the A's and he's with Detroit, and you're going to the field and you're like, you're going to have to beat one of the best in the game today,
Mm-hmm.
which is Verlander, and he stuck it up our butt a couple of times. And as a player, I didn't like that, but as a fan, I know at Detroit, they're like, we got our guy here. We don't. It's probably a much more enjoyable fan experience versus some bullpen guy that you probably don't even know his name, and you're seeing 7 of them, 8 of them, 9 of them.
So this year, Josh, I went to one Sacramento A's game,
Hmm.
and I strategically picked the game in which Tarek Skubal was pitching.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
I literally, quote unquote, but now thankfully the gold card got me in. But I literally like reserved my opportunity to go to the ballpark based on who the starting pitcher was that night. That's great for baseball. When you're
Hmm.
deploying 7 different relievers in a 9 inning game and you have a 40-man roster that basically we're moving these guys in and out, it's not good. Is there a rule that we could implement that possibly could bring back the starting pitcher? Say, for example, he's got to go 5 innings or get to 100 pitches before you can remove him. And if you remove him before that, there will be some sort of penalty. Maybe lose the DH. I don't know.
I like that. I think there needs to be some experimenting, whatever it is with it. I think if he comes out before the 100 pitches or 5 innings, whatever it may be, and he's injured, like he has to stay. Like it's a
10 days.
it's at least 10. Like you're on there 10 days,
Yeah,
right? Like there's
agreed.
no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, oh, it was just a blister. No, it's 10 days, dude. Like you came out too early, and yeah, I definitely think they need to do something for that for the because I really don't like. This is my own opinion. I don't like sitting here watching a bullpen game in the playoffs. And I don't know anybody that I've talked to besides analytics guys that like that because it gives them the best chance. And the whole reason why teams started doing that, you had teams like Tampa that really started doing that early on is because they didn't have the payroll, right, to be able to
Hmm.
compete and go face CC Sabathia, Justin Verlander. They didn't have, but they figured out a way like, oh, well, we can kind of create CC or we could create Justin Verlander or we could create Clayton Kershaw by running 7 different arms out there at a time and compete against him at that level. Um, I've just never been a fan of it personally, and we'll see how it plays out because I haven't seen. I could be wrong because I didn't watch a lot of playoffs that much last year, but you look at Tampa when it came down to crunch time and when they were using bullpen games and yanking guys too early. In the World Series and further on in the playoffs, they ended up paying for it because the bullpen gets depleted. And, if you go look at it, there's a lot of research now on a lot of these guys that kind of get these relievers get burned out really quickly because they get used so much and so often. And it's, it's a tough business, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of people would benefit if there was some type of rule put in place for the starting pitcher.
How do we get the ball back in play more often? Besides, obviously, being able to see the starting pitcher, which is what we just discussed. I think Major League Baseball has a serious strikeout problem. Is there something that we could do from a rules perspective, or is there something that hitters could do to figure out a way to put the ball back in play more often?
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of it has to go to the style of hitter that one thing, and I can use this as an example. One thing that I like about the Blue Jays offense is that they're not strictly dependent on the home run ball. Like, do I like to drive the ball? Like, personally, like for me, yeah, that was a big thing for me. But I think throughout their lineup, they have a lot of those scrappy type of hitters. Like, you need, in my opinion, you need 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys that are high contact. If I was building a lineup,
Yeah.
you need to find the high contact guys and then sprinkled in your 3 or 4 bats that are going to drive the ball at the ballpark and have um, the ability to change the game that way. It is getting harder to do because, as we said earlier, the pitching and the stuff has gotten really good. I will be interested to see how much this ABS system helps that.
So, where are you on the automated balls and strike system?
I think they should just. I like the challenge system. When I did some rehab games, they had so like in the minor leagues, they've been doing this for a little while, right? And Tuesday through Thursday, it was just strictly ABS, and then Friday through Sunday, they had the challenge, right? And I think it's a cool fan experience once people see this in stadiums, to where they have it going up on the big screen and the ball is coming in, and you see it like darting either in the strike zone or out of the strike zone, and and it's pretty quick too. So it's not something that's going to hold the game up. But I think if it was just strictly ABS, guys, because right now it's still somewhat going to be in the umpire's hand. It's going to just reward the guys that know the strike zone, and which is fair. I get that. But to me, the whole reason why the ball hasn't been put in play as much A is because you have, from the hitter's responsibility of it, you have a lot of guys that are up there not able to make adjustments at the plate, right? And B, the whole analytic thing about baseball now, and this is why you see guys that aren't good defensively in some positions, is because if I can get pitchers on the mound that can not have the hitters put the ball in play, now I can put whoever I want in the field, right?
You're
And
right.
so how they pitch, when I first came up to the big leagues, it was 2-0 fastball, 2-1 fastball, 3-1 fastball, 3-0 fastball, 3-2 majority fastball, and you had to learn how to pitch with your fastball.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there was more contact in the game back then. Now there is no fastball counts. You get to 3-0 and you'll turn it on. You get Aaron Judge, you get Vlad Guerrero up there, you get some other guys that can leave the ballpark and hurt you pretty quickly. 3-0 becomes slider counts now.
Mm-hmm.
3-1 slider count, 3-2 slider count. Because
We
they
saw it last night to Bryce Harper, 3
yeah,
0 slider.
3-0 sliders. So I mean, it's like there are no fastball counts anymore. And as a hitter, when you're up there and you can't get too geeked up for fastball now, because now you can swing and miss at the slider that's outside the zone, right? And every swing you take mentally, like, it's either you're on it or you're not, and you know that as a hitter, right? And so if I just make myself look foolish on one, then it's, you have to really be dialed into what you're doing in order to make that adjustment that quick.
Mm-hmm.
And really only the elite guys are able to do that. So I feel like with this ABS system, the more that you can get guys having to throw the ball in the strike zone for strikes, now the ball starts getting put in play a little bit more. Because
Yeah,
the whole theory between pitching and the last 10 years is let's get them to not hit the baseball. What will they take a pitch for a strike, and what will they swing and miss at for a strike? That's a ball.
yeah,
That's been the whole theory for pitching for the last 5 to 6 years.
yeah. It's like I tell the 14U boys that I coach. It's like the least amount of throws are no throws, right? The best
Right,
defense is the fact that you don't have to make a play,
right,
and
right.
I that's not good for baseball though,
It's not. It's not.
because
Not for the entertainment part of it.
no. But think about even how you got your shot. Hey, Josh, just go catch everything at third,
Yeah.
and we'll let your offense develop on its own.
Right.
So I mean, run prevention has now become, I think, the in vogue word. It's funny because I've been coaching, like a national travel team for the past 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always been about run prevention because when you go
Mm-hmm.
play your pool games on Saturday, they seed you by the amount of not run differential, but by the amount of runs that you actually gave up. And when we first started doing it, I'm like, dude, this sucks, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it discourages you actually going out there and throwing a kid that may not be a
Right.
pitcher on a Saturday, this and that. And then as we went through it more, I'm like, you know what? I actually like this because the best teams are the teams that don't give up the fucking runs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean that's the name of the game, right? It's pretty obvious. Is score more runs and give up as many runs, or give as few runs up as possible. I just really think that we got to get guy, and the pitch clock has helped with this, because when I first came up as well, it was all the reason why you pitched with the fastball is because you wanted to establish a tempo to the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they've had to do that with a pitch clock, which is good and bad in my opinion. As a hitter, I didn't love it, right? But with the ABS, it's like you're going to get the same strike zone every day. Now with the challenge system, it's going to be a little bit different, but you can still have that opportunity to challenge
So,
if you know their strike zone. To where I felt like when I was using the ABS, I'm like, if they would have just strictly used the ABS, I probably could have played a little bit longer if I wanted to.
well, if they strictly use the ABS and have it call every ball and strike,
Mm-hmm.
and then we actually lower the
Yes.
strike zone and get all of the pitchers off this ridiculous high strike,
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to get more balls in play. So, MLB and the Players Association, I understand you guys want to ease our way into this thing, but if we want what's best for the game, which is a baseball back in play, it's straight ABS and it's
Mm-hmm.
lowering the strike zone to discourage pitchers living up here and not only getting the swings and misses, but now they're getting the fucking calls on top of the rectangular box.
Well,
That's like,
that's the
whoa,
thing. It's like now you're getting that big curveball that's above the zone by two
stupid,
feet out of the hand, and it's getting rewarded for a strike. And I
stupid.
mean, let's even look at it even further. I mean, look at this Xander Bogaerts at bat. This past week when he has a great at bat, gets the 3-2, and the ball's a full ball below the zone, and it gets called a strike. Like that goes to bases loaded. It completely changes the complexion of that game, and they end up losing the game, right? And Xander was pretty pissed off after the game, and I could understand why. I mean, because he was right, and the umpire probably told him that he was wrong, that he got the pitch right, And fortunately for us, we get to see where it's at, and then as a hitter, when you're going back and you find out that that's actually a ball in that big of a moment, and I think with some of the umpires, like it takes a little heat off them at the end of the day. Like, let's be honest, balls are moving really fast and they're moving really late in there, and some of these guys are just guessing. And it's not to bang on the umpire, but that's just what it is. It's the guys are good. This isn't 89 to 92 coming in anymore. This is shoot. I saw a guy throwing 104 the other day. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean,
It's crazy. I mean, obviously, um, I have my different thoughts on it. Watching Sasaki pitch last night was really interesting because he was throwing the
the
split
split.
and it was unhittable. And so I got my kid. He was watching the game downstairs. I was watching the game upstairs, hitting pickleballs against the wall. And I just kind of yelled down. I go, dude, you got to get a strike. At no point are these ever a strike. How many do you have to see in a row? And I try to,
Yeah.
like, as if he was in the
Uh huh.
box.
Yeah.
And and so basically then he gets into account. Now the hitter takes a pitch, like took one like pretty comfortably. And I yell back, what are you getting? What are you getting? He's like, split. I go, no! Heater's coming down the middle. Be ready. And sure enough, 100 miles per hour. It didn't look like it was crazy ride, crazy up.
Mm-hmm.
This was as dick of a dick ball as it could fucking get. And right through. It's almost like if you are going to hit that, Josh, you have to sell out for it the exact same way Judge did the other night when he took the 100 up
Yes.
and in, which to this day, in all my years of playing and analyzing the game, is the single most impressive swing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean that was Hey, what's even more crazy about it is he's 6'8" and he has arms that are extremely long. So to be able to suck the arms in and then get tight and turn behind a baseball and keep it fair, that was like one of my favorite things about Barry Bonds watching him is that he could get on top of the plate and then you could throw it at his belt buckle and keep it fair down the right field line. And Judge, from a similar standpoint, did the same thing the other day, which is extremely impressive. And guys that are elite hitters are going to hit. Like we're talking about how hard it is to hit, but Aaron Judge still hit 330 with I don't know. He finished with like 50 something homers or whatnot. So guys are still going to figure it out. But what he does, and the hard part about the game is you got to control the strike zone. You have like so if you're up there swinging as a split, like for me, if a guy had a split finger, like the whole bottom third of the strike zone, he's taken.
Mm-hmm.
That's your hey, dude. If you could throw it a couple inches above my knees or at the knees, like good for you. Like that's your. I'm not gonna expose myself to swinging at a split in the dirt, right? I'm gonna be looking for more a belt high and working for it to push it up, even
Yeah.
if it is 100. But at that time, like I'm this is what I don't want to keep saying this is what I did, but this is what I did. Uh, when I had my load, and this is why I don't like to see guys like very still in the box, in my opinion, is because for me, like I wanted to feel like I was gaining. So if we were running a race right now, how I would compare me hitting was if, and this isn't you personally, but the two people, like if you were sitting here standing still, and for me, I was jogging like to the line. And then when he said go, I was hitting the line, and I already had some speed building up. So I wanted to feel like this was going and moving and getting back, and I was always going to a spot and then being able to adjust from there. Ooh, whang, adjust, like wherever it needs to be. And my biggest superpower that I believe that I had as a hitter is I could say no later than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you hear the talks about guys and they're like, okay, you need to be a yes, yes, no hitter. You need to be a yes, yes hitter, right? Well, if you push the bat, if the bat gets pushing forward, you can't be a yes, no hitter. You have to be a yes, yes hitter, or you have to be a no, no hitter. Like there's not an in between because once the brain says yes and the bat gets in front of you, it's so hard to check your swing, and you're pretty much done at that point. For where me, where I was taught like the slot, if I was here, like the slot was at the elbow. Like I like to play around in this area back here.
Mm-hmm.
Like so that was where my slot was. I wanted it to drop just inside my rib cage here to where now, like I get this waiter hand like that right there, to where now I can turn this plane. Now all I have to do is tilt a little bit there. See, like that tilt. Now I'm on that. If I need to go lower, I can tilt a little bit more there. So that's kind of the area of the slot of where I wanted to be working in, and that allowed me to get to those. But to your point with the Saki, like if he's still at 100 and he's got the split that you're not going to hit anyhow if it's down, like I tried one too many times. It just doesn't. It doesn't really happen unless you're left-handed. Lefties can kind of get on that occasionally, but for me, you got to get on the heater at that point. Or what I would even preferably do is to try to find a count where he would like to just try to throw a strike little slider in there to where I could sit on a slider, and that's probably like 90 mile an hour fastball. And then you could do some damage off that.
How often were you guessing pitches?
I think no matter what you do, if you're on fastball, you're guessing fastball,
Correct.
right? So it's always a guess. You don't really know. Uh, but for me, what I would like to do is I would like to, especially if I had at bats, and this is why it also became harder when I didn't know who was on the mound towards the end because guys were changing. Because now I have no history to go off of. But I would like to go history of at bats to see like in what counts do they like to do what, right? So it's like if I had a guy at like 2-1, 2-0, or one whatever the count was, if he had like a 65, 70% or more of a pitch in that area, I was just trying to get to that count to get to that pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially when the guys started throwing harder. Now, from like 2015 to 17 of those years, I would say like 50% of the guys that we were facing, I didn't. I was trying to let the fastball get as deep as possible on me, and if I could not be on fastball and hit a missile foul to right field off of it, like he had no chance that day.
Yeah.
Because it was like, all right, now I felt that. Now I never feel like I'm going to get beat by a fastball. And so once anything hangs a little bit or gets in this, in a zone where I'm at, and then what ended up happening is it would be like 15 to 20% of the guys that have to look pitch and location. So pretty much, I don't know if you remember like the King Griffey Jr. game where they had like the circle, and like they'd have the pitch, and if you guessed the pitch, then it would have like the circle, like it would lock in
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Like essentially, that's kind of like with the guys that were elite. What I was trying to do, I was trying to lock him into like a certain pit. Like once they got to 97 to 100, and they had a slider that they could throw for a strike, or a secondary or third pitch that they could throw for a strike. Like now it's like I got to look for an area and I got to look for a pitch
yeah.
because you just don't have that much time.
So when I play, Josh, I mean, 2010 was my last year, but
Yeah.
basically, I would sit fastball away,
Mm-hmm.
and that would keep me on the slider. And there
Mm-hmm.
were certain counts I'd obviously get to where it'd be like, okay, I'm sitting fastball away, but I know the slider's coming, and I'd put that
Mm-hmm.
in my mind. Um, and then, a lot of times, if I got that, good hard fastball in, riding in, I was in trouble. Now, I hit two seamers really well. Actually, it was kind of weird because as a right-handed hitter, I had kind of this natural
You
lefty
did.
swing.
You did. I remember.
Whereas down and in, I'll clip your ass. It didn't matter how
Yeah.
hard it was. There was actually one ball I hit off of Mike McDougal. He was a closer for the
Mm-hmm.
Royals,
I
throwing
remember him.
100.
Yep.
And I remember seeing the pitch, the first one. It was a two-seamer down and in. And I'm like, oh, fuck, was that a changeup? This was like game on the line, right? And I had a 19-game hitting streak on the line.
And it was
And I was
100.
0 for 4, and I just got cut up by fucking 88 all day. And so I look on the board, it says 100 miles per hour. And I'm
Yeah.
like, holy shit. I go, okay. I'm like, this is where I want to be. Because before I got in for that last at bat, I'm like, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. And then I get in there one more time, and this one started, middle, and then broke down and in. It was just like this, like, doop.
Missile.
I'm running down the first base line. Get up, get up, get up. And this ball in Kansas City above the wall, they have the chain
Yep.
link fence, like the small
Yep.
one,
Yep.
that right down the left field line. It fucking ricochets off the top of it, shoots 3/4 of the way up the stands for a game-winning homer. And that was when I'm like, okay, if I can hit that pitch, like I should be able to hit any pitch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so felt comfortable with it, but I think a lot of times, we don't. Again, like for whatever reason, I was a long arm guy, and so this is bringing me to my next question because what I'm holding right here is a Birdman torpedo bat,
Oh, those are the torpedo ones.
and that's Flippy. He's a smiling stick figure. Right here. Yeah, I actually sell chains with Flippy on them.
That's
So
hilarious.
the Birdman guys, Gary and company, made this one for me because as soon as the torpedo bat became a thing, I'm like, oh fuck, man, I could have used that when I hit. What are your thoughts on the torpedo bat?
I was more of I had it more at the end of the bat. Um, my weight at the end of the bat, so I never really used. Now, when I was with the Yankees, they ended up making me a bat towards the end where the barrel. I was grandfathered in. My first year, 2010, was the last year where you could have the barrel a certain diameter than the handle, the ratio.
Okay.
And so I could have like a bigger barrel bat with a somewhat thinner handle. Because I don't know if you remember when Tyler Colvin, I think after he got punctured by a broken bat, they
Yeah.
did the whole study on all the bats, and they came back and made a ratio of what they thought was safe. Um, so with that said, they ended up making my barrel because it was only the thickest part of it, kind of towards the end. They made it from start at the label going up, and I was like, oh, this is a little different, like, right? But I did notice the ball probably didn't come off it as hard because, like, I remember when I first came up, you probably heard the same thing. Like the C271 was probably the hardest wood, but it had the smallest sweet spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing to how, I guess, dense the wood is for the size of the barrel and things like that. But the torpedo, I don't know if I would have liked it or not. I never tried it. Um, but I would, as a hitter, I would want to preferably get jammed more than to get it hit off the end.
Yeah, well, the thing about getting
Yeah,
jammed is when you get jammed, you have a
like
shot.
good hitters get jammed.
We say it all
Yeah,
the time. It's the fucking
yeah,
truth,
yeah. It
right?
is
Because you let the ball travel.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
dude, so my battery's at 5% right here. This has been fucking fantastic. Anything else? I got to get you back on here. I want to get you on with Will. I said,
Yeah.
I want to get you on first, just so you and I could come and just talk shop and whatever
Uh huh.
else. Anything else you want to get out in the world right now? Anything from a baseball perspective that's bothering you? And then also, look, just recently away from, I don't use the word retired, but recently,
Yeah.
you're no longer playing. Uh,
I'm a has been now. It's
Hey,
easy.
fuck it, man. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because I honestly, at the end of the day, no one gives a fuck what you've done.
Yeah.
It's about
Exactly.
what you're going to do. So,
Exactly.
going forward here with Josh Donaldson in your life, uh, what can we expect? I know you're a huge collector in
Yeah.
sports cards, and that's one of your passions. What else should we expect?
Yeah. I've been Smoltzy and a couple guys. They've put together this Pro Series Cup golf league, and I've been doing that. Um, they're doing 5 to 6 events a year. You have to qualify for the sixth event, and it's fun. It's a avenue for a lot of former professional athletes from NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL. We all get together and still get to compete, kind of like how you do with the pickleball thing. But we're not exercising while as much as what we're doing, so a little bit easier on the body, but still, golf has been a huge passion for me. So I've been doing a lot of golfing, and I got 2 young kids at the house, and um, yeah, we just moved out to Arizona, so it's yeah, we have a lot going on, and sports cards looking for football season. Doing a lot of fantasy football, so that's always fun too. So I love sports. I've always been into it, and that's probably not ever going to change.
What about coaching or anything in the front office? Obviously, a brilliant baseball mind.
Yeah, I've had thought about doing like some special assistant stuff, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure. There, I've always had interest of possibly doing front office things at some point because I really feel like I feel like the game of baseball from a developmental standpoint, from the hitting standpoint, has it could be better, right? And training, even like from like the training, how guys train and in the weight room, I feel like that could be better. And I feel like I have ideas to where it would be fun to possibly do one day, but it would be hard pressed for me to want to do something unless a team was pretty serious about me really, because I'm not the type of person that's either in or out. Like I'm either in or I'm not really in.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it makes sense. And I think there's, that, I don't know, let's call it like 2 to 3, 4 year period when you first get done playing
Yeah.
it's a really cool opportunity to find out who you are.
Right.
And
Exactly.
right, as a husband, as a
Hmm.
father, just as somebody who's around the game of baseball. I mean, I was several years into this thing, and the Bananas came calling,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was something that I would have told you there's no fucking chance I would have ever gotten involved with. But it became a passion project, and to be on the forefront of helping develop that, and to now watch to see what it's gone on to be, it's real interesting. Have anyone from the Bananas reached out to you yet about joining in some capacity and
I
getting
think
out there as a
so.
player manager or something?
I think somebody had reached out to me before. I didn't know if it was real or not. So I'm like, a the last thing I need to do is be on a baseball field right now and probably tear another calf or something like that. So I was like, I think I'm good, but maybe in a couple more years we'll see.
Well, I mean, I could just see them uh, going to Auburn, for
They are
example.
they are going to Auburn now.
Yeah, I mean that's here we go. And don't get me like, look, I'm not there on an everyday basis, but very connected with them.
Hmm.
And I'm sending Adam Viron, one of the coaches for the Bananas, director of baseball ops, always getting dudes to, we like to quote unquote put them in a cool position.
Right, right.
That would be fucking amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that
where
would be
this
cool.
thing's got to happen.
We'll see. We'll see.
Oh,
I might
well,
have to start. I might have to start running.
yeah, go take a few hacks in the cage.
Take a couple hacks. There you go. Take a couple hacks.
The running thing's not a bad idea, though. I remember this. Hey, you got to use it or lose it, bro.
I know. I know. I just started working. I started working out since I was like in a weight room from like 12 till I retired at what 37. So I took 2 years off. 37. 30. I took 2 years off. I just started getting back in it a few months ago, doing some CrossFit stuff, and I got to get back into getting into the weight room because I like it. It's exercising is. I enjoy that as well.
Real quick, I'll let you go here. Nastiest pitcher you ever faced?
Uh, Man, I don't know if I ever thought there were. I can't remember who the nastiest. I remember the nastiest pitch that I ever saw. It was Justin Masterson. We were in Cleveland, and he threw me in. I had a 3-2 count, and I'm like all in heater, right? And he throws me like a 98 or 99 mile an hour fastball. This ball started a ball above my belt, and I swung, and I was like, I'm about to hit this out of the stadium. And I swung, I came up empty, and I go back and look at the video, and the ball bounced behind home plate. And like from that point on, I was like, okay, I'll probably never get a hit off this guy again. Like this guy.
It was filthy, man. That dude was
so disgusting.
fucking gross.
I look at him on third base the next half inning. I look at him, I'm like, bro, and he was living at like 93 to 95 at the time. I look at him, I'm like, 99 with like, what are we doing? He's like, I don't know, man. I'm like, apparently you do know because that was absolutely disgusting. But I mean, King Felix was always. I felt like we always had to start with him when I was in Oakland, and it was like, start your year 0 for 4. So have fun.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, man. All right, bro. Well, hey, stick around 1 second. I'm ending this stream. If there are those listening on Apple or Spotify, if you could leave a review, we'd greatly appreciate it. Do not forget, we are sponsored by the Foot Reflexology Board. That's right. Pick up your Foot Reflexology Board. Decreases inflammation. Decreases pain, improves sleep quality, and more than anything, just gets you a real fucking shot in the foot to start out the day. And then the F It List, life lessons from a human crash test dummy, Daily Hustle 222, unfiltered life guides from a human crash test dummy. And then let them play a parenting and coaching guide to youth sports. There it is, Josh. Appreciate you coming on, man, and let's fucking do this again, too.
Let's do it soon. Let me know.